The pumas in the Rockies, and the ocelots down in the Andes, and the lions in the Serengeti.
It's one of the smallest of the cats, and this is the biggest. The Siberian tiger, 10 feet long from nose to tail. The spider monkeys. These large primates are big fig eaters, but they won't have the tree to themselves for long.
July 14th, 1960. 26-year-old Jane Goodall arrives on the shores of Gombe Stream Game Reserve.
When I first came to Gombe to study chimpanzees, nobody really knew very much about them.
You have an opportunity when the camera is on to tell a story. You should take advantage of that opportunity that it's now spreading across the nation and this TV show is popular. Take time to educate people about why the animals are here.
Fox News alert and a story we've been telling you about all morning. The search continues near Zanesville, Ohio.
It is Jumanji on the streets of Ohio. I'm Christine Roman. Schools are closed after grizzly bears and big cats and other safari animals break out of an exotic animal farm.
48 exotic animals, many of them man-eaters, are roaming the countryside of rural Ohio.
It was a jungle out there. Lions and tigers, monkeys and bears, wolves and baboons.
As more than 50 lions, Bengal tigers, and bears roamed the streets, residents locking their homes, children kept behind closed doors.
The frantic 911 calls.
911. Yeah, there's a lion on Mount Perry Road in Gray Shot.
I'm pretty sure, and I just saw a wolf.
I think I just seen one. It looks like a jaguar or a wolf or something.
Our office received a 911 call from the neighbors. They had saw a bear and a large cat out in the field chasing the Thompson's horses. From the first reports of the deputies getting there, from where they were telling me the animals were at, we knew they were out of control, and that played a huge part into why I made the decision to shoot the animals.
Well, joining us right now with more on this story is Tim Harrison. He's a retired police officer and the founder of Outreach for Animals.
Their natural instincts will kick in. So the sad part about this is, first of all, they shouldn't have been in these cages in the first place. I'm really big on leaving them in the wild, and private people should never own these animals. You could buy a cobra, but you can't buy common sense. I'm driving up, and the first thing I see, there's a flashing sign like a construction sign, and the sign says, "Caution. Dangerous animals loose. Stay in your call 911. A truckload of guys in camouflage all come by with rifles in their hands. They drive up next to us, and their eyes are as big as saucers. And they're saying, "Are you here to help us?" Because I have my van that says Outreach for Animals, and they knew who I was. I said, "Yeah, what's going on?" He goes, "It's like Jumanji. There's animals everywhere."
Concerned about the camel. We're more concerned about a very unhappy grizzly bear.
Right.
These are adults, we're told, and they've lived in captivity their whole lives.
There is only one animal that is unaccounted for tonight. It's a Macau monkey, which could be carrying a virus that is dangerous to humans. But officials say there's also a chance that monkey was eaten by one of the big cats. The release of 56 wild animals was the last desperate act of their owner. Just out of prison, Terry Thompson deliberately cut cages open before committing suicide with a gun. Some of the animals attacked his body. Thompson's estranged wife covered her face from reporters, but did help move the surviving 6 animals into crates to take to the Columbus Zoo.
The only person that knew exactly how many animals were at the farm had committed suicide. So they were asking neighbors if they could come in and identify. And so they would walk up and say, "Yes, that's Noah, and that one over there is Cindy, and oh, we're still missing whatever, Ginger." And There were wolves, cougars, tigers, lions, primate that were all into this one little area. And then when I entered the house, I couldn't breathe. The ammonia from the urine was so strong. There was a bear right outside the basement door. It was nearly 100 pounds, and it was in a bird cage.
It wasn't the national media or the onslaught out there as so much as it was the phone calls that we received at the paper, that the sheriff's office received, that the police department, who had absolutely nothing to do with it, received from people all over the world so quickly.
There's more tigers in the state of Ohio in people's backyards than there is in India right now in the wild.
Meanwhile, the Zanesville Terry Thompson case has opened up big questions about the sale of exotic animals here in Ohio. Animal rights groups are calling for tougher legislation.
Ohio became the hotbed because we had no laws, no legislation, no nothing.
How common is it for a private individual on a farm to have all of these exotic animals?
Well, the laws in Ohio, Wolf, aren't strong. I have 57 animals here, tigers, lions, everything. I can't take them to Columbus Zoo. There's not room there. So people could have exotic animals, whatever they want to buy. They could probably get a lion, tiger, elephant, whatever they wanted. And it just kind of one of those things that just took place here in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, within we'll throw out within just last 6-month period, we've done over 49 lions and tigers, and these are people's backyards and homes, basements. At least 15 cougars, 20 plus bears. We're in the process of doing some more right now. Lots of alligators, lots of pythons. These auctions got huge, as you'll see on the tape. They get huge. You just look, when I tell people, I said, yeah, look at the black leopards coming out. Look at them auctioning off the cougar cubs and the lion cubs. But look at the crowd. Look at the massive crowd, and look at these people. There's doctors, there's lawyers, school teachers.
When I was there in 2002, they were selling babies that were just a day old, that had no business being taken away from their mother. And people were coming from all over the country and buying these brand new babies. You can't take a day-old baby lion home and think it's going to survive, because it's not.
Get it on camera, because this is exactly how I ended up with bears. And you weren't planning on getting a bear?
No intention whatsoever.
So how did you get the bear?
I'm on wholesale.
There were 70 horses up there, and there were 9 dogs that were loose on that property. Not one horse, not one dog was injured in any way. The animals were always very excited when Terry came to the cages. They loved him. They loved him and Marion. You could tell. I wouldn't feel comfortable walking up to the cage. Terry could just walk right up, right in. So, were those animals aggressive? I don't know. Were they?
And there is an emotional, attachment. You can't help but get attached to these guys. I mean, you can't. And if you think that, a person thinks they can get these and not have any a big emotional attachment to them, they're wrong. I try to let them be as much of a tiger as I can. They're pretty lazy, as you see. They don't worry about nothing. I think that the attachment with an animal like this is, much greater than some have with their domestic cat.
There's a genetic component to this, and a tiger will never really be
domesticated in the way that a dog or cat has been domesticated, unless someone were to undertake an experiment over generations and generations to genetically select for those qualities of domestication.
He's ready to find a place for the bear, and he contacted my organization, Outreach for Animals, and that's what we do. We've been very successful at trying to find homes for animals that nobody wants. We're like the last resort for dangerous predators.
You are never, and I don't care what anybody says, who owns what, you will never take that instinct of a wild animal out of these guys.
That was a good one, wasn't it? They're not like the ones on TV that they watched on their Animal Planet shows, the ones that are surgically altered or sedated, given a little something to take the edge off. They act like a bear or they act like a tiger, and just they can't handle it.
We don't have contact with animals that are truly wild anymore. And this might make it even harder for people to conceptualize that when you actually take an animal that is truly wild from a more remote part of the world, like a tiger, its behavior will be something altogether different.
The new buzzword is reality TV, and it's that shock TV. When you put people in a dangerous situation just to do a TV show, that's not the right thing to do.
I've known Terry since I was 5 years old. We were always in the woods or doing something, looking for animals, picking up animals. Well, it was just fun to be around. Terry was always trying to excel and never wanted to be behind anybody. Terry was not your normal person. Because Terry would have been 21, 22 when he came back from Nam.
There's stories out there about Mr. Thompson serving in Vietnam and not being the same when he came back. You know, the animals are used for coping all the time.
Terry was a very typical warrior. He loved children. He loved animals. He didn't trust a lot of people because a lot of people were very cruel to him.
No one would ever dream of what happened with Terry Thompson.
You know, our office knew of Mr. Thompson, knew where this farm was at. We'd been there numerous times.
He had a hell of a time. He had to come up with like a cow a day to feed these animals, selling arms. He was selling whatever he could.
He was very frustrated after being arrested for firearms possession.
He couldn't fight it any longer, and he was just going to have to go in and confess guilty. He couldn't afford to pay his lawyer any more money.
He was just struggling to do what he felt was important to save the lives of those animals.
I think he felt caged. I think he felt probably deserted. That he'd rather, you know, beat himself to his animals than be caged.
The day he was sentenced in federal court, the judge was trying to get Terry to tell him he was sorry. Terry went in and pled guilty, but refused to say he was sorry. And he said, one of these days, they're going to push me to the point where I'm going to let all my animals loose and I'm going to put a bullet in my head. And I looked at him, I said, don't do that. Don't even say something like that.
there are more people who keep exotic pets in America than elsewhere.
I think the main reason why it's in the United States of America is the leader of all this craziness is because we like our liberty and our freedom. We should be able to do anything we want, be anywhere we want.
I think you could associate this with the number of features of America, simply the amount of space we have. I think certainly that libertarian streak that, I should be able to do what I want to do on my land as long as it's not hurting somebody else.
Why should they come in here and be able to tell me what I can and can't do with my property? Animals are property.
The legislation passed in Ohio, there's going to be certain things that they have to be in compliance with by 2014.
When that happens, then they'll go back and be checked. For example, the perimeter fencing,
A regularly scheduled veterinarian trip,
the insurance,
inspections,
proper feeding,
inventory list on the property of all things that were not in place back when we had our incident.
If those aren't done, then those animals will be taken from those people on the spot.
I agree that we needed some kind of legislation. I myself have seen these animals in trouble.
You have to have a registration for your gun. Hey, you got to have a dog license for your dog, but you don't have to have nothing for a lion. So what gives these people the right to keep a grizzly bear in an apartment building? These people were pretty much Terry Thompsons themselves. They don't trust the Humane Society of the United States. They don't trust the government.
To me, I think it's ironic that a person who hated rules and hated laws is the main reason why we have one of the strictest laws in the United States.
Now that this has happened, we're going to clamp down, and all you animal owners need to, follow this and do that and do A, B, and C. They've been doing quite well for how many years with all these animals?
Most of them are responsible owners. And I think we just, not just to punish or take the animals from the irresponsible people, but maybe just help them a little bit,
It's a unique type of thing that somebody was allowed to keep 56 wild exotic animals, and then all of a sudden got to the point where he turned them loose.
I don't think you can stop somebody from letting a whole bunch of animals loose and killing themselves. I think this wasn't something that, oh my God, these animals escaped and Terry was upset and then killed himself. He let them loose and then killed himself.
The person who goes and gets the animal because it's cute, they always start out with good intentions, but things take a bad turn. Then they become intimidated by the animal. Then they need a place like mine.
There's no question about it. When you look at a baby tiger, that little tiger cub looks like a stuffed animal. They're so cute. They live for 25 years, they weigh about 500 pounds, and they're ferocious.
The love is so much there that they're not seeing what can happen. And I appreciate the love, but they're loving a bomb.
The zoos aren't going to take these animals. The preserves are almost maxed out. What are you going to do with them? You say you're not going to euthanize them. Really? You're going to have hundreds of animals being turned over. You're not going to euthanize? You don't have enough room not to euthanize.
There's no happy endings when people own these animals. I'm taking them from one cage to maybe a bigger cage. They're never going to see the wild. They're never going to be able to be wild animals again.
After a loss, I think people need to have a chance to sit and tell stories or sit and ask why. I don't think anybody understands.
The Exotic Animals facility was custom built from the ground up. There was no template or model to base it on. The legislature allowed $3.5 million to build the facility. The big animal cages are made of 6-gauge wire and have 6 padlocks each. The cage must be closed and locked before another can be opened, and never is a caretaker and an animal inside a cage at the same time. If an animal would get out of its cage after hours, there are motion sensors that monitor the cages for movement and 17 cameras that can take and send pictures to staff. Then there are gated, locked doors inside the rooms and in the main area, and there are 2 exterior fences, the taller one 12 feet tall and electrified. No animal will ever go outside, but the building is climate controlled and has warm and cooler areas in each of the bigger enclosures. The facility will only be needed for around 10 to 15 years because Ohio's new exotic animals law bans new ownership of animals. Current owners will be able to keep their animals but not get new ones, and will have to meet state standards for containing them, or state can take those animals and bring them here.